Welcome to another episode of me walking around in the woods. Today we're up in Natchuag State Forest. I think this is the Natchuag River. Hemlocks and white pine as well as some white oak along it. Very nice and very beautiful. Lots of whitewood aster. Yerbia divertica right here with its seed heads that feed birds. Growing up on the rocks. Yerbia divertica. There's the bezel rosette. Species of carex. Tetrapteris marginalis. That's what that fern is. Along this little creek. Thudium delicatum right here. Or delicatum. Got some Christmas fern. Or are these rock polys? Nope, these are rock polypodies. Polypodium virginiatum. Common. So these hemlocks in the genus Tsuga, they have the adelgid. Those little white guys. That's the sap-sucking insect. You also got a scale-sucking insect because it's attacking the weakened tree. So the white kind of specks on there, that's the invasive insect that destroys these eastern hemlocks. And eventually these will die. That's why all the leaves are towards the top, because most of the branches the shady branches end up dying from the adelgid, and then the saplings end up getting shredded because they're in the shade. Mostly just due to what I think is slower metabolic rates, so the thing's not growing as fast, can't produce as much energy, so the adelgid just sucks out all the life. Oh, look, it's some buttercup. Ranunculus recurvatus. Ooh, look at that nice Thudium delicatum. Very nice. Here we have a small, or a shrubby, Calmia latifolia in southern New England or on the coast. This thing gets much bigger, and typically I don't see ones in the shade bloom, or ones that are small like this blooming this much. These are all kind of whitish pink flowers, but this is a very common shrub. So, if you're wondering what brings me up into northeastern Connecticut on a weekday, which is quite uncommon for me, is I have this job up here in Eastford, and I've been doing it for a few weeks, but now it's getting a little bit too cold, ground's too solid, and I was removing thistle from this garden bed, and I just kind of cleaned up where I had it and decided to, wow, this is beautiful, but decided to, just pick back up on it in a few weeks. And so I go up to the client after I'm done, and to let her know the total, as of now, for her to pay me. And she says, well, let me see the invoice and I'll send you the check. And I was like, I really wanted her to just pay me, today, because it's like a week and a half of work. It's a decent chunk of change, Need that for bills and whatnot, and I don't know, I have the slightest inkling that she's not going to pay me. But I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. It's only been 2 hours. But she's going to mail it, so I'm not going to see this thing for at least 2 or 3 weeks. And I could see why she could be understandable and not wanting to pay me. I mean, I've worked my ass off. Maybe she wants me to finish all the work before she pays me, but I finished one of the jobs, and another of the jobs is over halfway complete, and I'm probably not going to get back to him for another 2 or 3 weeks until the next warm spell. It's supposed to be below 40, and with temperatures in the teens the next few weeks. And that makes very solid ground, hard to dig in. Especially what I'm doing in that bed is basically, I'm like tilling the ground and picking out the roots of this invasive thistle. So it's a big pain in the ass. I need to be able to dig. And with the ground freezing, I'm not going to be able to do that. So if I know I'll get paid. And if I don't, I'll be sad because it's a week and a half of work and wasted time. And I don't like wasting time, especially being a small business owner, and working and not getting paid. That's probably the worst part of it. But anyways, that's why I came to the woods, kind of cool off. And I also met this plover guy. No, is it? No, it's a kingfisher guy. I don't know. He's a cool kingfisher guy. He does. Is it a fish? No, it's a kestrel. He's a kestrel bird guy, and he does habitat for them. The Northeast Connecticut Kestrel Project. He's a cool guy. His name's Tom. Anyways, I'll continue this when I find something cool. Right here we got Huperzia lucidula and Michella repens. This is a lycopod, and this is a plant in the coffee family, or the Rubiaceae. Here's a moss in the genus Dicranum. These typically grow in rocks or logs, or they call it the broom moss. I know it's in the genus Dicranum, but they're hard to get to species. You gotta count the amount of cells in the cell wall. And then over here we got Betula elegensis, the ever so common yellow birch, growing here in the shade. And then all this moss here, this is in the genus Mnium. That's Mnium. And it's another common moss growing in shady wetlands. And right here we got Bassania trilobata, the ever-present and ever-common in deeply shaded ravines. It's a liverwort. Bassania trilobata. So these adelgid insects on these hemlocks are quite common. You can see them all over it. And they are absolutely on every single one of these small shaded hemlocks. And you can see that it's really making them sparse. They should be as thick as the overstory in here. But they're succumbing. And that little adelgid was brought in on non-native conifer stock for the nursery trade. So you can thank the nursery and landscape trade for yet another ecological disaster. And look, it's American beech, Vegas grandifolia, with its marcescence. So you can tell this one hasn't been hit that hard by the beech leaf disease. We had a pretty good flood a few weeks ago, and this is the extent of the river. Got all the way up here. It was about 4, maybe 4.5 feet above where it is now. That's awesome. Wow. So the flood basically cleaned up every leaf in here. That's cool. You can see the extent of it. Got all the way up to there. Washed out all the leaves. Look at the size of that big hemlock. About probably 2.5 feet around. Neat. Ever common and ever present in New England's forests is Chimaphila maculata. Beautiful little evergreen in the blueberry family. Here's some Leucobirum, or pincushion moss. You can see why they call it that. I don't know the exact species, but I know it is a Leucobirum. And they always appear a lighter green than the Dicranum. And they kind of look bad. They look nothing alike, but I used to get these confused. But they usually grow next to each other, and they're obviously different. These are always lighter green. Here we have Dendrolycopodium obscurum, or the flat-branched tree club moss. And it's very common, or somewhat common, in coniferous forests. And right next to it we got some Diphastrum digitatum, or flat-branched moss. I don't know. Flat-branched fan moss? I don't know. Call it Diphastrum digitatum. How about that? Another lycopod. They're both lycopods, and they typically inhabit the same type of area. Coniferous forest. But I have found these in a deciduous forest before. They're a little bit of a mold breaker, but those you can find in oak. Oak everything. These are more coniferous, but they can break the mold. getting into more of an oak. These are northern red oaks. You can tell because their leaf shape is a little bit different from the scarlet. They're not as deeply lobed, and the leaves tend to be, I guess, wider, have more surface area, whereas scarlet has deeper lobes. Interesting bark on the sugar maple. That's how you can kind of tell them from the red. Reds kind of have like more deeply grooved bark, whereas sugars kind of have this kind of patchy, flaky bark. And also habitat, typically you see red maples in swamps and lowlands, and sugar maples you see more in uplands or in rich sites like this one. And they can also grow in the deep shade. But I don't really see them together very often. This is a cone from a Pinus strobus, or a white pine. You can see all of its saps and resins. And let's see if I can find the culprit who dropped it. I can't, because it looks to be all hemlocks in here. I don't see the white pine. Where's the father? Or the mother? I don't know. You would think it'd be right above me, since I was in an area with pine cones. Yeah, there he is, right here. Big tall guy. Cool. Another very common one right here. Monotropa uniflora. Little parasitic plant. Another one in the blueberry family. Pretty open. Oh, here's a road and trail. You can see that the hemlock is starting to dwindle as we get out of that river valley, out of the shady gorge. We're starting to get into oak uplands. This area gets about 10 to 15 more inches of rain per year than coastal Connecticut and most of Rhode Island, or coastal Rhode Island. So you get a lot more open understory. That was a pain in the butt to climb. So witch hazel? Nope. Maybe. Nope. More dendros right here. Oh look, more maple leaf viburnum. Viburnum racerfolium. How do I know? Just by the way it is. I don't know, I can just read it. It's opposite leaves and stems, and the habitat's right. And I've seen this thing enough times that I can see it even without its leaves. Little maple leaf viburnum, white flowers in May and June, and beautiful purple foliage in the fall. And little blackberries. I'll likely see another. More yerbia right here. Whitewood aster, white flowers in the fall. Draptrus marginalis. Getting some little betula lentas right here. That's what these are. Got more Hupersia with the Thudium delicatum. This little rocky wash thing. Getting the view. More dicranum. Here we have Euonymus elatus, or the wing-barked euonymus, or burning bush. Home Depot invasive plant. You just rip those guys out so they don't root out. You hang them up. But that is only one of probably thousands. And that's just the way it is. Right here, we got a line of diphastrums. And these are more or less following, well, they're like a rhizomatous runner. And I think they follow mycorrhiza. And the mycorrhiza follow tree roots. So you can kind of see where tree roots are when you see these guys. That's my running theory, at least. Don't take that as a fact. Here's your hop hornbeam, your Ostrea virginiana. You can tell we're getting to the uplands because these areas, these plants like drier areas. And I know it's a Ostrea, a little birch family plant. Right here we got some nice little sterium, a little shelf fungi. That nice coloration. These ones are a little bit gone. They look better when they're fresh, and when it's warmer, they tend to be not as crinkled. Like very common fungi. And we got more monotropa here. Here we have a little Corylus cornuta, another birch family. This one is the beaked hazelnut. Very common. And this tells us that this is a birch oakland. Here we have red oaks, and then we have the birch family, another birch family, Betula lenta, black birch. Got the Australia I showed you earlier. There's one right there. So it's a birch oakland, but primarily an oakland because the oaks are the largest thing in here. And some of them got dead or eaten up by the gypsy moths probably. And the gypsy moths are a invasive species originally brought in for silk production. There's whole forests in southern Rhode Island that are only dead oaks like that one. Nice little dendro grove right here. Look at them all. Make a nice ground cover. Very nice. One of my favorites. I mean, everything's my favorite. Or everything's one of my favorites. Nice lycopods. Here we have another shrub. This is Hemlock virginiana, with the common witch hazel. Yellow flowers in the fall, and yellow foliage as well. Usually there's like a leftover calyx from the flowers, but none of the shrubs I see up here have them. You can find them in acidic woodlands like this one. Do you see it? It's Myanthemum canadense, or the Canada Mayflower. This has one little leaf in the spring, and it sends up this little white flower, little stalk, and then it has red berries. And this is the remains of it. Here we have a red maple, Acer rubrum, and here's its leaf. These are usually red or orange or yellow in the fall, but you can always tell it's a red maple because they have the silvery backside. Here's one of the most common members of the rubus genus. This is Rubus hispidus, or the swamp dewberry. You can also find it in uplands or anywhere that there's mesic kind of soils. It's also known as the prickly dewberry, which isn't too prickly. I've seen ones that are super prickly. But these form little ground covers, little white flower in the spring, and then black berries in the late summer, midsummer. They're pretty good. Here we have a Carya ovata for the shagbark hickory with its shaggy bark. Here's the berries I was talking about with Viburnum acerifolium. Good food for birds. You can take these and you can grow them. They take a few years to get this big. This is probably like a 10-year-old clump. No New England forest is complete without Potential canadensis. The yellow cinquefoil, a little member of the rose family with the yellow flowers. Here we have a non-native Veronica, Veronica officinalis. It's a time-leaved Veronica. I don't know. It's a creeper. You only really see it along paths. Non-native, little whitish purple flowers in the spring. It's a ground cover. Not exactly native, but doesn't behave invasively, or at least I haven't seen it behave invasively. It just kind of grows where there's room, and it's usually brought in on tires or shoes. Here we got Prunella vulgaris, and it has purple flowers, and it's in the mint family, not the milk family, mint family. Purple flowers in the summer. I've seen it bloom all the way into the fall. And they also call it self-heal because it's like some kind of herbal thing. Back down into the deep dark valley and then to my truck. So we're fading from a oak birch upland into a hemlock ravine. Now I haven't covered hemlock ravines yet, but they're... Wow, look at those maculatas. These have a lot of different variation. You know, sometimes they got the spiky leaves, sometimes the leaves are round. But they're very pretty. Sometimes this white Venetian is very pronounced. They're one of the more common blueberry shrubs. So anyways, these areas tend to be easy hiking, depending on the steepness. This one is relatively mild. I've been in areas that are super duper steep. And usually they fade from very, hemlock oak mix, and then it fades to almost pure hemlock. Diversity, I'd say, is low. You're not going to find much in terms of plants in these forests, other than a few of the most common ones. I have found like a couple decent ones, like wild basil, but I think that was like a fluke. It was in like an open area, so it couldn't even be considered hemlock. In Massachusetts, I found Goodyear tessellata in them, but I haven't found that today. I've only been hiking for like half an hour, so don't expect to find much in half an hour. Right now, it's just kind of like a scout, see if this is somewhere I want to hike. And I was also in the area because I was in Eastford doing a job. Here we got a wash. A little washed down. I think the main reason why these areas tend to be a little less diverse is because they're so shady and so acidic. And especially if there's oaks, there tends to be not much in the form of herbaceous plants. I mean, you have these Osmunda cinnamonium, or the cinnamon ferns, or it could be the interrupted fern, which both look very similar. They're a common kind of moist fern, and they can tolerate deep shade. It's along the creeks in these types of areas that you find the diversity. Nice big hemlock there. Hemlock understory. So now we're in the hemlock ravine, where it's almost dominated by hemlocks. There's the river again. And my truck is over there. Pretty sure it is. Yep, my truck's over there. We go all the way down to the river. Looks kayakable. Down the road there's some crazy rapids that would probably make me die. Maybe not. Maybe just flip over. Oh, I'm right here again. I think the bridge is down this way. Yeah. In the same area we were. I didn't even know I was going to find this area. I thought I was going to be coming up way down that way past the bridge. Glad I turned when I did, because I would have been just wandering that way. Well, I think that's about it for today. Goodbye.